Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Governor from Talon Esports, and this is Pedro Romero's YouTube channel.
Now that Champions is finished, now you guys move on to 2023. Obviously, at that time, it became there was a thought in mind from like the competitive scene and also maybe for your team as well that XSET wasn't going to stay together. You know, the squad because after XSET wasn't allowed or wasn't accepted into the partnership program, obviously all sites then pointed towards possibly the team parting ways, and obviously there was also like some reports as to what might have happened had certain things went to a different path. You even said it in a tweet, or more, not really you, but kind of Zekin kind of alluded to it, to what might have happened to the XSET squad in 2023. But still, for your point of view, how did you and the rest of the exit squad look through the off season, point from end of champions through uh, start of 2023, and yeah.
So, I mean, immediately we all thought going into it we were going to be confident that we would get a spot, whether as a team or players. Obviously, we all wanted to stay together as a team. We even considered playing challengers at one point as a team. Um, but then the offers started to come in. The first two were for Cryo and Zekin, obviously. They wanted to get them on the team first. And they went with those teams. They were like, "Yeah, like these are offers we can't pass up. These are our dream spots. Like we're gonna take these things." And when that happened, I was pretty much like, you know what, gotta respect it. And stuff that was going on behind the scenes was, no organization wanted us as a full team except I think G2, but they weren't in the league, right? So G2 was, I think, in the league at one point and then removed for someone else, right? So if G2 was going to be one of the partnered leagues, we were going to be their team. It was going to be all of Xset Valorant, and we were going to be able to stay together in their partnership, which would have been amazing. I mean, that would have been our dream. But then the controversy where they get removed from the league um, kind of screws us, right? Like, oh, well, that's our one org that wants to keep us together. Gone. So what are we going to do now? Like I said, not a single other NA organization was willing to take on our entire team. For whatever reason, no one wanted to have the team that got fifth at champs. I can't explain why or what was going through their heads. That's just the truth of it. So that forced us to split. And when we started splitting, the first two to go were Cryo and Zekin. Cryo to 100 Thieves and Zekin to Sentinels. Shortly after, Psycho and Def became the leadership of Sentinels, right, with the head coaching position in the IGL. And then it was kind of me and Aaron. And Aaron had been talking with a few different teams and organizations. He had Global Esports was the one that he ended up joining, who had given him the best offer, but he had to play in Korea that year. So then there was just me, and I didn't really know where I was gonna go. I felt confident I would find a team because not only was I on one of the better NA teams, but I had the best tournament of my life at that point. Not only did I play good, but I was rated higher than all the other initiators across any team at that event. So I really felt like I would find a team A and B be able to play initiator for that team, right? Um, but that didn't happen. Things fell through. I was almost joining crew at the start of it. Was one of my only offers. They wanted me, but they weren't sure if they wanted to go English speaking yet. They wanted to
Mhm.
kind of keep the idea of speaking Spanish still, and they ended up doing that. They picked up was it it was someone else. I know that they had ideas of picking up Shand, XAND,
Uh-huh.
and someone else. They were gonna pick up Melzer. Um, Whatever they ended up going with, they went with that roster for the first year, and they went Spanish speaking. So that kind of takes me out of the roster, right? Like, okay, they go Spanish speaking, they take me out. So that's about every NA organization filled because C9 was the superpower team with Ye and Vanity and those guys. Like they kind of kept their little clique together. 100 Thieves kept their team together for the most part. They were the same team. Um, they go down the list to Energy, picks up the Optic Core. That makes sense, right? Like you pick up one of the two teams at champs. They pick up the Optic Core, so they keep Crashies. And then that left EG, right? And EG was the only unknown. We didn't know what they were going to do. They didn't make any changes. They didn't openly message my agent. They didn't really do many tryouts. And I finally get word that I got a tryout with EG. And I'm stoked. I'm amped. Like, I'm ready to go. And I get told, oh, you're going to play KO on Ascent. And I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, like, fuck. I got no lineups. Like, this is going to be scary. I went in the server and I recorded. I never forgot. Recorded and sent Potter a video of me throwing all my lineups, my knives, my flashes. And I was like, hey, this is what I got, coach. If you think I need any more, let me know. And she's like, nope, that's perfect. Thank you for sending me that in. Like, I'm ready to go. Let's go. I go into scrims. I have so much energy. I play like at maximum, like it's like I'm at champs. I play like I'm screaming all the time. And let's go, nice job. And just that 1-day trial is all I had, and I didn't hear back. And it's, I kind of realized like if a week has passed and you don't really hear anything, they probably got somebody else for the job, right? Like, it's been a week. I heard that Ethan got signed to EG, and I was like, damn, like that's the KO guy, right? Like, damn, that's my spot. I'm probably screwed. Next week passes. They come back to me. Their general manager, Andrew Barton, comes back to me and says, hey, we want you for the team. Do you want to play Smokes full time?
Mm.
And at that point, I'm sitting there with no offers. I'm like, well, I played a lot of Omen. I was pretty good at playing Omen and Astra for my team, Xset. That was my third best role. Or obviously my second best role, my third best agent was Omen. So I was like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's take on this challenge. Went into this team with no expectations, just like, let's be the best we can. And we were just never on the same page. Every time that we were getting really, really good, a style clash came. Like, these guys wanted to play their style, and you saw it at Champions, right? When they ended up winning, you saw their style of, let's play loose, let's play like really aggro, let's be the team that no one can predict, no one can expect. And I was coming from Xset, who was the opposite. I was like, let's be the best defaulty team we can be with the best strategy, and like, let's make it so these teams don't even have a chance to shoot us, right? Like, let's use our utility like so perfect that they don't have a chance. So the style clash, I think, really, really affected my growth as a player. And I think that was really why I wasn't able to be the player they wanted on Smokes. I always had good stats, but at the end of the day, it's not about the stats, it's about those round wins. It's about playing together as a team. And we just never could get that. So when I was benched, I probably had some of the best stats in the team, and I think it really threw people off. I think people didn't really understand why Potter made that decision to move me to the bench and to bring their duelist player Jawjimo to Smokes, because that's what they had to do. They had to bring Jaw to Smokes and Boostio to play Smokes on a few maps, and it really threw people off. I don't think people really liked that roster move. I think they got a lot of hate for that, and that goes to show like some of the things you just don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. We never got on the same page. We weren't the same style. And yeah, they ended up doing their miracle run after that. They ended up winning champions that same year. When I got benched, I was still competing with the EG reserve team. I took more of a leadership role with that team. I worked with Zek, who was our coach, and Screwface, our IGL. I became more of like the co-IGL, like big voice for the team, because obviously I had the most experience, so I was kind of trying to teach them anything I could on the day-to-day, like how to communicate to one another in a proper manner. That positive reinforcement I was constantly trying to give back to my teammates, and still keeping them accountable. Being that player like, hey, you're fucking this up, like, you're doing a really good job here, but I want you to fix this. And then we became a really good team, man. That EG reserve team was beating, like, when Champions was going on and we were scrimming EG in-house, I think we had a winning record versus EG main. And I think we had a winning record versus franchise teams that came over, like DRX, PaperX. We had really good results against that team or those teams. So I'm pretty proud of the level of Valorant that we were able to show that really no one got to see. I think the only person that really gave us that credit was Andrew Barton, the GM. He would always say, like, you guys, like, I've been giving your names to these organizations, like, every week. Like, I see how good you guys are. I see where you guys can go as a team, and I see where you can go as players. Like, he was really supportive of us as a reserve team, and I give a lot of props to Andrew Barton on that, because he believed in us the whole time. He believed in us, and not many people did. I don't think anyone else really did.
Bro, that's definitely the kind of thing you want to have when in terms of sport. Kind of want to do a little bit of a backtrack onto before the switch was made, in the roster from for Demon One at your place. Kind of talking about your role, Smokes. Was there how difficult was it to just kind of have to play in a different role from how it was back in XSET and having to make this roster work in addition to just having to have the different, I would say maybe best word is philosophies behind how a team should um compose themselves either in scrim/practice and the official matches. How'd you kind of look at your role and how difficult it was, and how'd you kind of look at the difference in philosophies?
I think it was really difficult to start, like getting thrown into smokes on every single map, especially the ones that I didn't play. Like when it came to Ascent, like I was lights out. Like I'd always played good because that was my map. I'd played that on that for a long time. Haven always played really well on that map, but some of the other ones that I didn't really play, like Astra Pearl and so on, so on. The maps that I didn't play smokes, it was difficult to start. Like I had to pretty much learn on my own, and I had to do a lot of research to find out what other players were doing and to put myself into that role. Because, like I said, I got picked up to this team with a 1-day trial playing KO. So I had no reps with these guys. I had no idea what it would be like. I just got like thrown into it, and I think the role itself, I picked it up pretty fast. Like playing smokes in every map, I picked up pretty fast. I think the only one that was weird was like learning Viper, because there was a lot of lineups on Viper that I just was way behind on. Like obviously everyone had been finding Viper lineups for years. I'd come into this and kind of, had to find a bunch of my own. So outside of finding lineups, I feel like I played pretty well in the role. I came in and did my thing, and I had, like I said, I always felt like I played good for EG, and even to the last match. And the hard part was not being able to co-IGL like I was used to on XSET. I think I was always really used to being in the pack and being really involved in making mid-round calls. And when I was taken away from that role, that really affected me more so than playing smokes. Like I could play the agents. I'd played so much Omen in my life, and playing the other smokers were pretty easy too. So when it came to like learning it, it wasn't that bad. It was actually just the role within the team. Learning how to be a quiet guy, learning how to, just kind of do your thing and read the map without having to say anything. Taking lurk timings without ever really having to lurk before. Like I had to learn lurking on my own. All that stuff was more difficult than playing the smokes itself. So I think that was the thing I struggled with the most, and because it was like a developmental role for me, the team really wanted to win now, and I think that was ultimately why they made that last minute change mid-season. It was like a desperation move to try to change things, try add some kind of new flavor to the team and see if it worked. They didn't know if it would work or not. It was a gamble at the end of the day, but it ended up working out really well for them.
I now want to look at the match between EG and 100 Thieves. That's when the switch happened, and you guys were coming off of playing Haven. You were, according to VLR, the highest rated on that match. Still lost, but still nevertheless. As you guys moved over into Icebox and that switch was made, how did you kind of receive it? What was that situation like for you?
I remember on the day I arrived. Every day we arrived at the VCT arena, together in the vans. We all Uber there together, and I remember sitting down, and Potter comes over to me and she says, "On the second map on Icebox, we're gonna have Demon One play, and you're gonna sit it out." And I was shocked. I mean, I was pretty, like I was ready to go on all the maps, but when she told me that they were gonna pick Icebox, and that I was gonna be sitting out on that one, because I think it was the only map that Demon One was gonna play. They had been scrimming it for like a week, and they had only had him playing on Icebox, I think. It was like that map or maybe two maps. So I was like ready to go all three best of three, like all the maps. But when she told me that they picked one of the maps that Demon 1 was going to play. It was hard, man, because I had to sit there and watch. Obviously, they lost that map, and just sitting there and watching them lose, it hurts, man. Like, not being able to play for your brothers, like, not being able to play for your team, like, it hurt. And obviously, after that, she made the decision to bench me full time, which, I mean, I was blown away. I actually didn't believe that it was the right move, and I knew that I could be one of the better players, if not the best player on the team at that time, and I knew that I could give us the the impact that we needed. And nevertheless, you respect the decision at the end of the day. I went about it the right way. I talked to the proper channels. I talked to my coaches. I talked to my general manager. I said, like, this is what I believe. This is what I think is right. Um, and ultimately ended up going to work with the reserve roster, like I said. It was a tough swap. I'll never forget, like, those months were some of the hardest months of my career. Like, being told, like, you're the reason that we might be losing, like, or at least in my head, like, I'm like, why am I the one being benched? Like, maybe is it something I did? Like, never really got the full answer, honestly. Still to this day, I don't really know the full reason why I was benched. Just that it had to happen for the roles, I guess. Um, you know, I believe that I could have played Sova that season if they wanted to test me on Sova instead of Calm. I believe that we could have, like, made it work where I was playing like Fade and he was playing the Sova. Like, there were other iterations that we could have tested, but it just seemed like they didn't want to do that. Like, Potter did not. She kind of controlled the strategy, right? And so Potter just didn't really want that. She wanted her system her way, and so that ultimately didn't have me in the plan for that. So I had to take the leave and sit on the bench for the whole season after that.
But at the end of the day, it'd be fair to say that she found obviously net positive with Demon One
Oh
on the
yeah.
squad compared to how it would be, with you. And obviously, in looking at it in hindsight, obviously it was the right move in the sense of EG winning champions and you being a part of that reserve roster, helping the main squad improve, helping them obviously reach the mountaintop. And you already kind of elaborated on that in one of your prior answers to this point. But still, I gotta ask you, like, just from having to go from having to being thrust onto the main starting lineup of EG in such a very quick manner, and then at the same time, and then Costa also kind of in a way in the same manner having to go down to the reserve roster. It must have also just weighed very heavily on your mind for the negative, right?
Yeah. Yeah, those are some of the most negative months. Especially being away from family and just being away from the people that you can trust. It was hard to connect with my teammates at that point because I'm no longer talking with them on a day to day. I got kind of thrusted, like you said, into the reserve room, which I wasn't really close with. You know what I mean? It's you work with your team as a team, right? So those guys had already been working with different players. Like, they've been scrimming with different people. Like, now that I'm getting thrown into that, it's like I'm the new guy, right? I gotta try to fit in, and so didn't really have a close connection with them. Didn't really know who to trust, or what to talk about, or didn't even know what food they liked or what they like to do, what their hobbies were. So I had to learn all that stuff pretty quick. And thankfully we ended up being really close friends, and I still talk to all of them. I was just in Toronto a few weeks ago for a boot camp back when I was with M80, and I saw Apoth. We actually had a hot pot together, and I was going to be with Reformed as well. He's also in Toronto. Um, so I still talk to those guys on whenever I can. If I'm in their city, I'll go see them. So I'm glad to have that connection with them, and I'm always, rooting for them. I played Deadlock with Reformed a lot, this off season. I try to connect with these guys because we did have a good bond, and if I didn't have that, I don't know where I'd be. Honestly, I don't know if I'd still be competing if I didn't have that good team with the reserve and that good bond that I do with those players.
Also, one has to think about what one can do when they're in the reserve roster because for a lot of basically every other team in VCT Americas and also might be also the rest of the other leagues, not many teams had it structured like EG in the sense that you had the main roster, but then you have like one or two people on the sideline, on the bench, waiting for their turn. And a lot of times also you had like the actual assistant coaches that would be the sixth man, and due to that they would have to play in the server in official matches. But EG actually had like a full blown reserve team, not even having a team compete in like the major tier two events, up to my knowledge. Obviously you guys, I'm sure that they let you guys compete in like very small tournaments. If that's right, then yeah. If I'm wrong, then apologies on that. But still, like, uh, the point is that how would you kind of have to adjust from playing in tier one, or more so in the main roster, to now being in the reserve squad, and how have you kind of look at the day-to-day aspects, with that transition in mind? How do you kind of look at those two fronts?
I think it took a lot for me to realize what I needed to do. Obviously, like getting better every day was important, but at first I treated it as let's just get some reps. Let's make sure we're in the meta. Let's do whatever EG asks of us. And then it slowly transitioned into, hey, champions teams are coming here. Hey, organizations are looking at us. Hey, we're getting tier one scrims now. Like we're in the tier one calendar. Hey, like these organizations are getting firsthand view of what we can do. And so I think it quickly turned into like us getting focused on the next season, getting offers, getting our name out there. And obviously you saw Icy join G2 and Apoths join EG. So I think it worked for some of us, but for the rest of us, it was just about being the best version of ourselves going into next season. Like we saw it as this is a really good opportunity for us to sit this year, make a little bit of money like on the side while still getting better every day. We have a good chemistry, we have good like a system here. We can improve. And we started improving really, really fast every day. Like I said, we had positive win rates, I think, against most tier one teams. And when it came to the end of the season, yeah, two of us got offers right away. I think I was getting a couple offers from tier two right away. I was looking at like a couple different teams. And then when it came to my teammates reformed, he like joined one of the better tier two teams as well. So we all went our own ways, but we found our footing. I think the only person that I wish got more of a following was Zach, our coach. I don't think he got enough recognition for what he did for us, which is kind of upsetting, but that's the nature of this business. When things are behind closed doors, you don't actually know what the impact they're going to bring to any team. So it's tough. And that's, you know, the things that you have to deal with. You have to deal with in this business. There's limited slots, and there's not enough players or coaches to fill those slots.
Now going over to the moment that EG won champions, I was there in the forum covering the event on behalf of my respective outlet, and it was definitely one sight to see, just seeing a story like EG play out and finish in the most wondrous of ways, winning the world title, seeing a rookie like Demon One win it, uh, literally on his first year of Tier One competition, and just having that happen in addition to that of of his teammates, and in a way your teammates as well. And obviously everybody knows about how the main roster reacted and how they kind of took in that accomplishment. For you, what was it like for you, in seeing your team, your teammates win the world title?
It was bittersweet, man. I'd made a bunch of posts, and I remember people thought I was like faking my reaction. I'll never forget there was a clip. FNS goes, "You think BcJ's happy right now that he's seeing his team winning everything? That guy's fucking pissed. He's definitely mad." And I honestly, there were definitely moments I was mad about being dropped, but more so that emotion that I had more than anything was that it was bittersweet, knowing that I like a lot of those players, if not every single one of them, and I want them to succeed. And I really did believe in them. I truly thought that they were good enough to compete, and they were. You could see it. Finally, they proved to everyone that they were good enough to compete, and I was happy for them. I was. No shade, no bullshit. I was really, really happy that they won. The only other emotion that I had because it was bittersweet is that I was sad that I wasn't being able to able to be a part of it, right? Like I wasn't the sixth man. They didn't call me up to be the sixth man. It was Screwface. He was able to go to the event and hang out with the team and be there at the event. I wasn't the sixth man at Tokyo when they went to Masters Tokyo. It was Reformed. I wasn't a part of the team during that. And I always felt a little bit segregated because I wasn't on the main roster. That was the part that made me feel a little bit upset about the whole ordeal because obviously I love those guys and I want them to succeed, but not being a part of it really hurt. And it really made me feel like I was just another player and I wasn't actually a part of the team. Um, whether or not that's true, that's how it made me feel. And it was tough at first. Um, so yeah, bittersweet. I'd say I tried to not really watch the event. Honestly, I think that was the champions I watched the least amount of. It just hurt me to watch like them either win or lose. Like I wasn't rooting for them to win or lose. It was just it reminded me of everything going on and it was just too hard to watch. So I think for me, bittersweet is the best description and that's probably why.
I know that there was like a little bit of a tweet that you made, with the player tag where it had your name, and then below that was, I believe, 2023 VCT champion. Obviously, a little bit of some lighthearted fun onto that. But my question to you about that is that, roughly almost 2 years on from that moment, in which EG won, and your contribution, though small, was still kind of contributed to the team's subsequent win on that event. Do you kind of view yourself as the world champion? Did- or does it not really?
I'm a competitor, man. I gotta win it. I gotta hold it myself. I'll never consider myself a true champion. That's just the honest truth. I'll never consider myself a champion unless I actually hold that trophy. Um, I do understand that I did help a lot, and I do know how much we did help because we were able to in-house scrim pretty much every single day. We were giving them the tier one competition that they were desperately needing. Um, but yeah, I think for me, I'm too competitive to not want to hold that trophy myself. I gotta still, even to this day, I have to taste that moment. Like that's the only goal that I have, and it's the goal that I had this last year as well. Is just I have to hold that trophy, and I'm gonna do anything I can to do that for my team and for myself.
Now I understand that feeling because for some people, even like not even on esports in particular, but also traditional sports, some people will be satisfied in just having to play a small part into a team's subsequent title win. You're obviously the opposite on that. You want to be a player that has had plenty of moments, plenty of time with the team in order to that just feel that gratification, that moment of being on top and just completing the journey. And yeah, I do recognize that aspect, and hopefully somewhere down the future you're able to make that happen for yourself and for your respective team. That said, now moving on to this past year, 2024. You said that you received a few tier two offers immediately after 2023. Obviously, one of them was, I believe, M80. You said yes to that, and you were in the lineup that included the likes of some members of the 2023 roster, the one that almost won Ascension. Unfortunately, lost to the guard slash G2 at that event, including the likes of Nitro as well. Used to play 400 Thieves, Valorant in 2021, and played obviously CS for TL. How'd you kind of view the your experience from that first iteration? In the first half of 2024 with that roster, from going through initial discussions to actually playing in the server and playing in tier two.
Yeah, I was scrimming with a couple different teams in the beginning. At first, it was tier one. I had a few different tier one opportunities. I had been reached out by 100 Thieves, by Mike's, when he was originally the head coach. He was really interested in bringing in a new IGL and initiator, and I was going to fill that slot, and I was going to get a chance to trial. Um, whether or not they were going to go with me, that's hard to say. They were probably going to have a whole different list of trials, right? But I was scheduled to do something with them, probably a trial. Obviously, that didn't turn out because they went with Zix, and when Zix was brought in, he made a pretty clear decision on who he wanted. I don't even know if they ran trials. They maybe just played a few scrims and, you know, signed who they wanted, right? They kind of had a vision, right, for who they were going to bring on, and that was going to be EIU and Boostio, which is what they did for the 2024 season. And the other team that I had offer from was the C9. C9 actually was when they were working with MCE last year. He was building a team on his own and had been building one for pretty much the entirety of the offseason. I had been a part of some of the discussion, but I was brought in late, and he loved having me on as a co-IGL. He really thought that the synergy that me and Screwface had together was going to be really good going into the next year of franchising. So that was going to be something I was going to be a part of. It was going to be like me, Oxy, Nature, Screwface, and +1. I forget who we had. Jakey, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that was going to be the 5-man roster plus MCE as coach. And I was prepping to join. I mean, I think they were giving me contract numbers, and I was like getting ready to go and live in the team house for C9 this year. And then all of a sudden, MCE gets fired, and they go completely the other way. They get a new coach, they get a new system, a new IGL. They bring back Vanity. They sign all these new players. They remove Jake from the team eventually, you know, mid-season. Like, all these things happened pretty fast. I was pretty shocked. I was pretty surprised because I'd planned most of my year to join. And when that fell through, I think for all of us, we were, you know, that was what our last offer in Tier 1. You know, that was our last chance to really join Tier 1. So I was pretty upset. I was pretty down for a little while. But then the two Tier 1 teams, or two Tier 2 teams that contacted me were OR, which was Orange Rock Esports, and then M80. And obviously, I knew the M80 staff and leadership because I worked with both Marco and I worked with Psycho in previous teams on XSET. But I never worked with the players. And the players, I had to earn their respect. And while I was trialing with M80, I was also playing with OR, and they had basically offered me the spot. OR really, really wanted me to be their co-IGL and work with, I believe it was Rooney, Niliaz, Pancakes, and Icy. That was going to be the team. And we were playing really, really well, to be fair, in scrims. Like, I went into it with no expectations, and we were beating, like, every single team we played, including M80. Funny enough, every time I played M80, we were, like, pretty much giving him the hands. But M80 ended up trialing Calm. I believe they trialed Derek. And those were the two that really stood out. They didn't really like Calm. They ended up going with Derek for the second spot. And it was like between me and Derek, and the guys ended up like moving forward with me after the last week of trials. Like, they kind of realized, like, they said words like, it was always going to be you. Like, once we saw you play, like, it was always going to be you. It's just a matter of time. Like, we really like how you play. We're really versatile with you on the team. Like, I was able to play double controller, which is what they really wanted this year. If the meta was going to be double controller again, like, they could play it, which they really didn't feel like they could play that last year because EIU was always better at initiator. So EIU would flex the initiator, and they didn't really have a second smoker because Nismo always was initiator too. You know what I mean? So bringing me on kind of allowed them to do that double smoker. I could play Sentinel, I could play Initiator, I could play pretty much everything besides Duelist. So they really valued that. And when I was brought on, I was integrated pretty quick, I'd say. Um, the only difference that really threw me off again was that this team was so hectic, man. The way that they calmed and the way that they played, it was so different than what I was used to. It was fast. It was um there really wasn't a lot of like positive reinforcement, which is something I had to get used to. I had to get the phrase that was used is like get tough skin pretty fast because there was a lot of criticism and not much positive reinforcement. So it kind of sounded like some days you were just horrible, like, oh, this guy's ass, like he's fucking
Yeah.
up all the time. But in reality, it's just they want to make you better, right? And where they lacked that positive reinforcement, they had really good criticism. Like, the things that they were saying were really, really impactful most of the time, right? So if you were able to work in that environment, like, it was tough for me at first. Like I said, I've always worked in those positive reinforcement environments, so it was tough for me to adapt. I will not. I struggled to adapt to their system and their style, but nevertheless, we ended up figuring it out when we were able to bring on Net towards the back end. Playing with Nitro was a different style. It was like more structured, more CS, and he wanted to call his way. And this core, the core that had been here last year, they had already had a style in play that they knew they wanted. They didn't want to change anything. They didn't want to, you know, make it like CS or try to change the way that they call. So the clash there, we were never able to hit our peak, if that makes sense. And when that
Mhm.
happened, that's kind of when Nitro decided to go back to CS because there was just an endless like stylistic clash. We were never able to get on the same page, and even though we had some really good moments together, we just never could hit that peak that we were looking for. You know what I mean? We set that expectation of getting first and winning it all, and we never could reach that height with Nitro on the team, and it was unfortunate because he was probably the player I was closest to on the team. He was probably my closest friend at that given time when he was removed. So, um, yeah, it was my coffee buddy. It was tough to see him go.
Yeah, I can only imagine because when that M80 squad was announced at the start of 2024, there was a clear expectation for you guys and even for everybody paying attention to Tier 2. Expectation was to win and win from the jump and win leading up to Ascension. And in order to and to then see M80 not fulfill that for Split 1, obviously it must have been very tough, and that kind of led to the changes, bringing in that essentially for Nitro and just having to work around there. And so yeah, like walking into state split two, obviously you guys improved in that regard, winning it in playoffs, qualifying for Ascension. Kind of how'd you kind of look at how the team fared with Net on board compared to how it was with Nitro?
I think when Net came on board, we were in that mode of like, damn, we can bleed, we can lose. It's possible. It's there. And when we realized that, we had to put the gas on. I mean, we went full throttle with, I mean, everything that we had, we were given into this team. I was playing at that point. I was playing or thinking about Valorant like 10 hours a day, pretty much. And there were times I was burnt out for sure, but it didn't matter, man. This is it for us. Like, if we don't put in everything that we can, then what's the point, right? Like, what are we doing this for? So I think I was playing games. I mean, I was playing and streaming Valorant for like, yeah, like 8 to 10 hours, and then I would get on later to play Deadlock for like an hour or two to stay warm. Like I was playing so many video games to stay warm and try to get the best mechanics I could for the season. I think most of my year was like 12-hour days. Like 12-hour video game days, which is I don't think I've done probably since before I was even competing. Like, I don't think I've gone that hard since like Valorant has come out. So for me, it was like a really long, stressful year, and I put in as much as I could for this team. I transitioned my role. I had to be more of a quiet guy. I had to, pretty much be the team morale, like the vibes guy for this team. Um, a lot of my teammates like really took over the leadership of the team. So I had to take the step back. Someone has to be the supportive role in the team, and ended up playing whatever the team asked of me. I was playing, tons of Gecko. I was playing Sova, Fade, things that I haven't played in a long time. I don't know if I've ever played Fade on Lotus before this team, for example. So stuff like that I did for them, and I had to pretty pick up the support role. I had to learn how to do it, and it wasn't easy, but it was nice that I had my whole team behind me to help me kind of learn that role. Try their best to teach me what to do, and I credit that to them. And the success really started to come when we put our backs against the wall. I think this team always really played well, and we stepped up to another level when everything was on the line. And you saw that all the way until the Ascension finals. Like when we look like we're about to lose, we find a way to win. We find a way to get a win, pull it out of our ass, right? And that was something that this team, that was like our X factor. That was all we could do, right? Like we struggled a lot this season. We lost more than they're used to. And it was tough to lose, obviously, but we had that X factor always. We always had that chance to win every single game, and I think that's why we went so far this year. I think that's why we went to second place and why we were able to win streak to Ascension, why we played so well in playoffs. Like it just came so close, man. You really can't. It came so close. We didn't even play Neon in any of our games. Like in a Neon meta, we didn't really play it. We stuck with our guns on Yoru,
Yeah.
and you know, it it sucks to come away with the loss, but I'm glad that we at least did everything that we could. I'm confident that I put everything out there for my teammates, and I hope that my teammates feel the same going into the next season, going into their next team, because I really do feel like if you didn't like, we changed so much that year as a team, and we had to change so much as a style. We had a different IGL, different system, different strats. Like, if you can't be proud of that, then I'm not sure what you're gonna be proud of. Like that was a difficult season for us, and we almost made it work, man. And I'm proud that through all those changes that we had, that we still put on a pretty good result.
Yeah, it was definitely an excellent way to bounce back from the end of split one into split two, winning, going undefeated throughout that split, continuing that momentum into Ascension, and then finishing, as you said, in second place, losing to two game esports. Now going over into Ascension, same kind of expectations for M80 that was similar to how it was at the start of this year. Main contenders being looked at as the team to complete the journey, complete the run, and make it to tier one. Obviously, that didn't happen, losing to two games, and it's kind of a little bit of a multiple part question. Another one for this conversation. Uh, how'd you kind of look at the team's run in Ascension, and in addition to that, two game? What made it so difficult for you guys to take them down, especially in the playoffs? Because there was you guys played them twice in that front second half. Both of them ended in losses. How'd you kind of look at those two parts?
I think they played really confident, and we were not used to playing a team like most of the teams there were just their duelist was confident. Like their duelist was going in, and we expected that, and the rest of them were supporting. That's how most of the teams of the tournament played. But two game, in my opinion, had all of their players playing crazy angles, super confident, peaking first, like pretty much together on every exec. Like even on CT, when especially with the Deagle rounds, when they had the sheriff, they were peeking into us. They were confident. They knew they were going to get that kill, as if they like could see the future, and they knew that if they peaked this, they were going to kill us. And I think that's what really separated them from the rest. That obviously, plus they were really good at playing the Neon. I think the Neon really destroyed us that tournament, and they were one of the teams who really played it really well. I forget the player. I think it was Spike. He played a really good Neon at that event, and he was tough to beat, man. That team was tough, and they played confident. And I honestly think the reason that we lost them is because we weren't used to the plays that they were making. Um, Caught us off guard on different rounds, and in Valorant, when you lose a thrifty, let's say two thrifties in the same game, you're in bad shape, man. You're probably going to go down 5 rounds off that. It's tough, and this game's not forgiving in that fact. You have to win those eco rounds. You have to win those thrifties. Um, against the thrifty, sorry. And yeah, it was really difficult to come back from those rounds. Those tough rounds that we lost. I think that combined with them just being really confident, those are the two things that really attributed to us losing.
Heading into the actual like matches and the way two game played, exactly what was the kind of style that they played that allowed them to be such a team that can play with such confidence, from your point of view?
I think it was their leadership. I always look back to the interviews they had, and I look back to their in-team huddles that they had. I look at the way Zap was talking to his teammates. Honestly, I do. I look at the way that, like, I go back to that original point of that positive reinforcement. I look at him saying, "Hey, you look sad right now. I don't want you to look sad. You're a beast. You're one of the best players in this tournament. I want you to go out there and have fun. And if we lose, then at least we had fun," or something along those lines. He was pretty much embodying that positive reinforcement lifestyle into his team, even when they looked like they were going to lose and his teammates were down. I mean, I remember watching that and seeing his teammates like almost like they looked depressed, they looked down, sad. And he's there to lift them up in a right way, in the positive way. It's, you know, I really do think that it changes the chemistry in your brain. Like it changes how you feel and it makes you play better. It makes you want to win for the guy next to you. Makes you want to win for the guy here, to your right and to your left. And so for me, I really do feel like that gave them the confidence, that leadership that they had gave them that confidence to play carefree. Play and just have fun. You know what I mean? Go out there. You're already one of the best players in the world. Give it your all. There's nothing to lose. Play carefree, and I think you saw that in the way that they played. I think you saw that even after them losing in groups. I don't think they had a great record in groups. They did not. They lost a lot of their games, but you know what they had? They had that bounce back factor, that leadership, that positive reinforcement. I think it went a long way for them. Uh, Went all the way to them, winning the fifth map in grand finals.
How do you kind of contrast that, um, as you said, positive reinforcement that you saw in the Zap in subsequent pieces, content pieces to that with how it was in your team? Because, I would say you guys were in a similar predicament, especially at the very end of the grand finals where you guys had that 2-1 lead, losing in Haven. You lost to that, and now you guys were moving over to a bind and made his permaban map.
Yeah.
And as a result of coming into this stage as the lower bracket team and a 2 game using their bans in their way, you had to play it on the final map. Tough situation, but it was such that you guys had to go through regardless. At that point in time, how'd you kind of contrast what 2 game was in and how you guys were in terms of just overall team atmosphere?
I mean, look, the fact that every year Ascension someone's gonna have double ban advantage is fucking crazy. Like that is such a big advantage in this game. Like I don't know if I've seen another game that has had a bigger advantage for being in upper finals. Like the only other one I can contrast it to is like in fighting games, if you come from the lower side of the bracket, you have to reset the bracket. You have to win like 2 grand finals effectively, right? That is a crazy big advantage. So fighting games and then Valor and Ascension are like the only 2 leagues that I've seen that have the most harsh losers bracket like terms and conditions. Like man is double ban hard, and when you go into your perma ban, it's tough, man. It's tough, and obviously it was one of their better maps too. So it's not going to be like a free map. Um, Haven was difficult. They brought out that weird comp on Haven, and obviously just kind of took it over. Like just took us like by surprise. Didn't even really get to adapt or react to their playstyle. So Haven was kind of an outlier, but yeah, Bind being very difficult, and I'm against the double ban for a lot of different reasons, but I think the biggest one for me is just like you play your whole year, you travel to this foreign country, you play for the winner takes all tournament. Wouldn't you rather have the team that wins be like theoretically the team that like didn't have some crazy advantage? Like give them the choice to pick team A or team B in the band. Give them some other advantage, right? To this give them the first 2 map picks or something. You know what I mean? Like give them some kind of advantage that doesn't just like guarantee a map win. Like being able to perma ban our best 2 maps and play bind, which is our perma ban, it's too big of an advantage in my opinion. Like it almost to the point where it's an unfair advantage, right? Like it feels crazy to even say out loud. And I'm upset that we had to go through that because I do feel like we fucked up. Like we shouldn't have even been in lowers to begin with. We lost in a way that was silly, and we were just too overconfident in that match. And I don't think that we played it well at all. We weren't even a team. Like we weren't playing as a team in that match. So we deserved to be in lowers. But um, just for the future teams that go to Ascension, the future prospects of all of VCT. I want it to be the best team that makes it to win. You know, our match is done and dusted, but for the future Ascension, like, can we change the double ban? Like, oh my god, the double ban is such a big advantage um for VCT, and it's only in Ascension. Why is this not in the VCT regional leagues? Uh, can't really speak on that. I don't know why it's different. But I'd like it to be. I'm pushing for change in the future for sure. For the future of Valorant for sure.
Yeah, I do understand your point, but I'm gonna give you a little bit of a counterpoint to that. Then,
Yeah.
if okay, so if there is such a change is made towards the double ban for the grand finals in favor of the upper bracket team because they're the ones that actually made it to that point without
Yeah.
losing, dropping a single match in the playoffs, then what do you think would be the best way to kind of replace it? Because at the end of the day, the only thing that changes in regards to a best of five is just um, the map, the vetoes, the map selections. That's kind of the only
Yes.
variance that you can kind of tweak. And so that's it. I'd see hardly it'd be very difficult for a TO or Riot to kind of see anything besides giving map ban advantages towards the upper bracket team because I mean, if you kind of take that away, then it just kind of puts them in an equal footing. But by that regard, you wouldn't really give the team that makes it through the upper bracket an advantage because, I mean, what would the point thus be? If you can understand what I'm saying.
100%. And yeah, I think there's a lot of different things you can do. I think the one that makes the most sense is giving them 2 map picks right away. I think starting out the map vetoes with 2 picks. I think the only thing that you would not touch is you'd give each team 1 ban. I think that would solidify the rule set, and then everything else you can give the advantage to you can give the advantage to the team in the upper bracket. They do this for champions. They do this for the regional leagues. Like when we were playing, obviously at Copenhagen, they did it. Giving the advantage to the teams who came through uppers. Obviously, back then it was like also who's higher seed, right? So higher seed advantage has always been a thing. Um, there have been map vetoes with advantages since the beginning of time. It's just that for some reason Ascension is the only one with double ban. It's like the only one where you get 2 bans. Even if like I make the finals of champions, right? And the other team that came through, like let's say they go to lowers and through group stage they lost, came through lowers, qualified, they don't get that big of an advantage. They get maybe, map pick, they get to choose which side they're gonna start, they get to choose the first couple maps, they get to choose um which team like there's obviously a team A, team B, you get to pick that. It's like starting if you're the higher seed, right? You kind of come into the tournament with equal footing. Everyone's the same seed, right? But then when you go through the upper bracket, now you've solidified, oh, you're through the upper bracket, you're the higher seed, right? You're the team that gets to dictate the advantage and you get to play off that advantage. I think it's just something they need to look at because for me, you don't want the team that qualifies to Ascension you want it to be the right one. It's such an important match, not only for the players, but for the league itself. You want the right team to come in and you want the right team to like fit the VCT Americas system. And God, I really hope 2G is the right team. I do think that they're good enough to compete. I hope that they succeed. And more so, speaking to the next couple teams, the next Ascension, I don't know who's going to win the next Ascension. And I don't see many orgs coming back to Tier 2 in general. So it's really scary to say that the team that could be coming to Ascension could get another double map advantage. And we might be putting a team that doesn't have an org, or we might be hurting an organization that, let's say they invest all this money. Let's put a thought out there that Shopify Rebellion comes in and they have this amazing run, they win everything, but they lose a match and they go to lowers. you don't want Shopify Rebellion, who put in all that effort into VCT and all that investment, to have to face a double ban, and for all that hard work to just kind of, not get represented. It felt upsetting that I didn't get to represent M80 correctly. I do feel like we were put against a tough position there with the double ban, and I don't really care. It's done and dusted for myself. I'm not sitting here raging about it or anything. It's just for the future of Valorant. I want to make sure we put the right people into the league who deserve it. And I want to make sure that the organizations that want to come into Valorant, they see it and they go, well, M80, they just put all this money in and it's not worth it for them. So why would I, as an organization, want to come into Valorant Tier 2, right? It's like, it's scary for these orgs, and I want it to be less scary for them. I want them to invest in this game. I want them to invest in the future of Valorant and hopefully make a franchise. You know what I mean? Whether that's Americas, Latin America, Brazil. I want these orgs to come in. I want them to feel good about going into this tournament, and I want them to feel like it's fair.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point to have in just sort of talking about the effects, this would bring to the future of tier two. And this is one subject that I also talked about in another one of my recent videos before this recording on my channel. But, interesting to hear your point of view, as someone that has lived through it uh this year, and one might say also like in the very beginning of your time in Valorant. And so that said, now we're getting into the present, basically getting into a repeat of what we've talked about uh, at the very start of this combo, but still, just sort of now looking into the future with 2025 now onto the horizon, and also everything beyond that. How did you kind of look at your career and your aspirations and just continuing it in general, because obviously you're on the outside looking in to the tier one level, VCT Americas and all that stuff. So how'd you kind of look at that front?
Yeah, like I said, it's been difficult. It's been probably one of the harder off seasons for me, just because of the limited spots. You're not getting contacted as much. There's really not any organizations looking for players. And so it makes you question a lot of things, makes you question if it's even right to do this anymore. Can I even continue to do this going into the future? And um, I think thankfully right now I'm not on a time clock. Thankfully I'm able to stay at home right now and take care of my family, and I'm not going to be homeless, and I've got a setup to play, and I'll be able to be okay for the holiday season. Thank God. But I feel bad for a lot of the kids who don't have that. The kids who have to do something with their life. They have to get a job, or they have to go to school, and this is probably their last chance to get into VCT or even play in the Tier 2 league, and there's no hope for them. There's no organization. So I'm thankful to have that opportunity to pursue it. I'm still looking for a team. I'm still looking to either IGL or co-IGL, play every role in the game except duelists. Like, I can play smokes, I can play sentinel, I can play both scan and flex initiator. Um, I'm looking to join any team that needs that leadership kind of role, and um, I'm not sure what's gonna come. I don't know if there will be a team for me in the next couple months, but if there is one, I'd like to get back to scrimming. I'd like to get back into that mindset of helping the young kids grow into future stars, and I like to get in that mindset of being one of the better players in the region as well. I think right now all I can focus on is that improving. I'm trying to stay in the right mindset. If something comes my way, that'd be great. Whether that's, tier 1, tier 2, maybe even possibly thinking about collegiate going into the future is something that maybe I have to start thinking about. Never really thought about that in the past, but maybe that's something I gotta do now. Think of moving into collegiate. Whatever it
Mhm.
is, um, I'll have that decision made when the tier 2 system is kind of figured out, when everything has been finalized and all the teams have been solidified. I'll make that decision then. Until then, I'm just gonna continue to do my thing, try to keep in the right mindset, stream, play Valorant. I'm still playing Valorant and Deadlock like 6 hours a day, um, both games. So like, streaming that as well. Like half the time when I feel like I'm up to it, I'll stream. I feel like the only time it's hard to hit that stream button is when I want to get up and go get food, or I want to go talk to my family. It's like, when I hit the stream button, I want to do it and stream for my viewers. I want to be there and stream for like 4 hours, you know. Um,
Hmm.
but some days it's hard to hit that button, man, and sit on your PC all day. So um, if I'm ever not streaming, I promise I'm still playing the games. That's pretty much all I'm doing in the off season is just playing, eating, sleeping. I think this weekend I'm finally going to get out of the house. My family wants to take me to. We're going to go to Cedar Point, so I'm excited to see some amusement park and go to like a roller coaster thing. Take my family out, but first thing I've done pretty much all off season. I've been playing and grinding ever since. So uh, don't plan on changing that, and I'm hoping to find my footing with a new team here shortly.
Hopefully able to do that as well. Mentioned Deadlock. I gotta ask you, just out of curiosity, how do you view the potential of that game developing an esports scene? Because you've been in that similar situation where you've started playing a game in its early years and competing in the esports scene in those early years. I mean, Apex, Valorant, stuff like that. Obvious examples where you kind of see that in Deadlock.
It's hard to say. I am very hopeful because of the company that it's being run by, obviously Valve and the ex Dota 2 developers running the obviously developing the game. It's huge. If they didn't have that and if they didn't have that backing, I don't know where the game would be. Honestly, I don't know if I'd have faith for it. It's really fun, but fun games don't last nowadays. If you've noticed, like fun games come and go. Fun games are here for a few weeks. I remember all of us playing the finals, that game, for a few weeks, and then it just kind of poofing out of thin air, right? Like fun games come and go. And while Deadlock is one of the most fun games I've played, I need to see that support from Valve, and I need to see it, um, you know, coming into the next couple months. Obviously, for me, I'm only focused on Valorant right now because I'm still in the middle of my Valorant career. I feel like I can find another team and join another team ASAP and be one of the best players in Valorant. But when it comes to Deadlock, it's more like that game might not release for another year. We might not see a big tournament for another year and a half, maybe 2 years. So when it comes to my plans, I can't plan on the unknown unless I plan on like streaming Deadlock or something and being like one of the bigger content creators, which I've never had a plan to be a big content creator for Deadlock. I've always been Valorant pro player first. Um, that's like the only thing you can really do in Deadlock right now. There's not any big tournaments to play for. There's no really big point in playing for a team or scrimming or anything unless you want to do it for fun. I've played in a few, it's fun. I've played in a few tournaments, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. But that's just off-season shenanigans. When I get back to Valorant and I get back into a team environment, I'll probably play the game, a couple times a week. That's about it. So for me, I'd love for that game to go somewhere. I think it can because of Valve and the backing that they bring as a company. But have to wait and see. Have to wait and see. It's in their hands for sure.
No doubt about that, and definitely will be looking forward to what you have in your what you have to show in the future, BCJ. And with that said, I think I'm gonna wrap up the interview right here. We've been going on for almost around 2 hours and a half. Plenty of information, plenty of stories that you've given to me and to the viewers, and obviously got to thank you for that also. That said, with that out of the way, do you kind of have any final words to give to anyone in reflection of your career and what you might have to say about the things future players can have or can look forward to in the future?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I have to give thanks to not only my family for supporting me this far, but allowing me to do it in the first place. Comes to all my past teammates, all my past friends that I've made, whether it's through Valorant or outside of Valorant. Like, I would definitely not be here today if it wasn't for them, like, uplifting me on a day to day. Some of the hardest moments I've had in my life have been in this job. It's not an easy one, it's stressful. And I know a lot of those young prospects kind of feel that same pressure as well when they're coming into this game. Make sure you have that right support system around you that's purely positive to your life. I know a lot of kids that come into it with maybe like a toxic relationship or toxic friends, and it doesn't help them further their career, and they ended up quitting or fizzling out. It's super important, man. I'd say it's more important than anything is getting the right people around you that actually support you and make positive changes to your life. It's super key to this job. And yeah, any young aspiring kid coming up and playing either Valorant or any competitive title, um, don't forget you're doing this for fun. I think a lot of kids come into it with the assumption that they're here to make money or that they're here to join some famous org and become a big streamer. Like, you gotta start out by having fun and being talented. Like, just being a good player, playing for fun, and playing these tourneys for fun. Making sure that your teammates around you are having fun is really important. Nobody likes that toxic teammate who's just, making the game unfun to play, right? You want to have the right people around you that are supporting you. And I think if you get that down really early on in your career and you learn from those people, learn from your coach, listen to those guys, you can go anywhere, man. You can do anything in this game or any competitive FPS or any game. I think a lot of people really forget about that. They really sleep on that. But especially these new age kids are so like crazy. They think toxicity is like fun, which it is. Obviously, little banter, little shit talk's fun. But when it comes to your teammates, really dial in and make sure they're having fun and make sure they want to be there on a day to day basis. And you're gonna do great things, man. Appreciate you and thank you for the time. Seriously.